This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 107. And tonight, I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And joining us tonight is Inky.
Hey there.
So, I have to admit something to Inky since she wasn't on when it happened. I completely asked if Pinky was going to show up, because in my mind, I have linked your name with the ghost from Pacman. And I guess I just randomly picked the wrong one. So I'm old.
No, I like that. I like that. It's like Inky Brushes is like an art thing or whatever, but I like your thing better, so...
It works in both ways.
It does.
Okay, so I have to share a tale. Over the last couple weeks, we've been on this like grand mission to remodel our backyard. We have flowers and stuff now, and I've always wanted birds, and no amount of attempts in the past have ended up with birds being friendly and roaming around the backyard. And I don't know what's different this year. I don't know if it's the fact that we trimmed up like the hedges and there's bright, colorful flowers in the backyard now, but we have so many birds. At one point this afternoon, there were like 12 birds, tiny little birds, hopping around the deck playing. And it's going to be so insanely costly because I'm having to fill the bird feeder every single day. And I thought at first it was falling on the ground, but apparently they're just straight up eating it. Because whatever fell on the ground, they're also eating that too. So I'm apparently subsidizing a family of birds.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Subsidizing some squirrels.
Well, no, like, the funny thing is I watched a squirrel and he couldn't figure out how to get to the feeder. I put it out on a limb, and I guess he couldn't figure out how to get down to it. But anyway, that's my real world thing. I hear that a lot of you have been playing a silly amount of Stellaris this week.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I wasn't up until 4 at all.
Off.
Yeah, there totally wasn't like Jonathan took a 3-day weekend and then yesterday we totally played Stellaris for most of the day.
Stellaris says I played it for 39 hours.
I believe it.
And it's only been out less than a week, I think.
Came out on Monday.
Stellaris is really good.
I've heard really good things about it. Like, I've got a friend at work that has been ravenously living off of any information that he can get a hold of about this game prior to its release.
It's been in development for ages.
Yeah.
They were doing a weekly YouTube series on it for a while.
It's interesting because I wasn't really into... I've never played any of Paradox's previous games, and I know Tam really loves Crusader Kings, but as he describes it, I always get a little bit like itchy in my skin. Like, it sounds like something that might be fun, but I'm always like a little bit off-put by it.
So, Paradox has a thing about strategy games, especially like the really big empire-spanning kinds. And their philosophy on it is very different from a lot of other games. Like, if you play something like, I don't want to say Master of Orion because I haven't played that in a while and I don't know how it is, but like,
well, the new one plays exactly like Master of Orion 2 played, so.
Yeah, but I don't remember that one well enough.
Oh, okay.
But there was another 4X that we played that I'm trying to remember. Sins of a Solar Empire.
Played Civ Beyond Earth. Oh, that too.
Sins of a Solar Empire, Civ Beyond Earth. The thing about those games is they give you all of the information. You can plan. There aren't any surprises. You're very rarely going to be caught off guard by an event or have to change your strategy or whatever. Paradox games say no. We want to simulate the real world, and we're doing more grand strategy. So things that you don't expect are going to happen constantly, and you adapt to them, or you try to bulldoze your way through them.
Yeah, the thing that you just said there is precisely why I haven't really played any of these before Stellaris, like there's a theme thing as well. Like I much prefer sci-fi to like, I don't know, I guess like
Historicals.
like realistic feudal Europe, but
Yeah, that's the same reason why I've not played very many strategy games in general, is because they tend to gravitate towards that, and I would much rather play sci-fi.
Yeah.
but like I don't know, that thing that you're talking about, the surprise thing, like I hate it when that happens. I get totally furious. I'm like, I built a pacifistic race of people and now like they're breaking up, they're fragmenting into like fucking space pirates. What is that?
Yep.
That's stupid. I hate that.
I played a lot of when I played a lot of Civ, and I've played a lot of similar 4X games, and like I really like them the first time or so, and then I find the right tech tree. Then you find exactly the right combination of traits to put into your starting race, and the best place to start, and the best way to progress the tech tree so that you're the most powerful at every important point, and so on and so forth. And the thing that I don't even necessarily really like Crusader Kings now, but what I liked about it when I tried it was you fail. It will provide you with situations and you may not succeed at them, but the game will continue. And so like failure isn't a game over, and new stuff happens. Failure is just another event in your story. And Stellaris is similar in a lot of ways. It's a little less punitive than Crusader Kings.
Yes, that's what
By
makes
a
me
lot.
actually still like enjoy that. Like we played it and I got furious for a little while, and then I was like, okay, well, we can settle into this. And I'm the sort of person that when I play those, I want to start lots and lots of games because as I learn more about the game, I want to adapt, and sometimes that's fairly impossible within the save that I've got. And
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
I've started like 5 saves already as well.
I feel like a similar sort of like game that I like that is Dwarf Fortress. I'm noticing like a lot of like maybe not necessarily like gameplay similarities or theme similarities, but it scratches like that one specific itch that I have with like Dwarf Fortress of like, okay, I'm learning, I'm getting better at this, but I'm gonna just keep starting new ones because I want to keep getting better at it and doing better each time.
Yeah, like in those situations, I tend to just roll with the punches because, like, I hate starting from scratch. Like, I hate starting over a game. I'd rather just continue the one I had, even if my master plan failed, and I see if I can figure out a way around it, than starting new. Because, like, starting from scratch just feels like I've wasted all of this time trying to get down this path, and now, I have to start over.
I'm definitely on the side of like starting many games. Oh, something went slightly wrong for me. I'm gonna start over again. And sometimes, even if everything is going okay, sometimes I just want to start over again and see how I can get things to play out differently or a little bit better.
There's also a component of like the chess player in me can recognize when something has reached the point where I could continue to play it out and watch it slowly just go into the ground, or I could accept my failure and start a new game.
Oh man, that was always the aspect of chess that I hated. The fact that everybody was playing off of essentially a book, and you knew, that once you reach this point, there's no way to dig yourself out of the hole. And like, I'm a little Kirk. I don't believe in an unwinnable situation. so I want to freaking hack the rules until I win.
Chess,
so,
not
like,
really Bell's game.
It's not my game. Like, I used to play a lot of chess in high school, and it would infuriate me when I went down a road that I couldn't get away from, where there like a no-win situation, and it just yeah. So I like the concept that it's basically allowing you to go down alternate paths.
I like that Stellaris rewards a lot of different ways to play it. In a way that a lot of other 4X games don't. Like Civ. Really, you should be an aggressive warmonger. Like, sorry, did you want to win the game? Did you want to win the game without it taking forever? Be an aggressive warmonger, conquer everybody else.
I do feel like it's worth noting that I haven't won a game, and I don't feel like we've been close to winning a game, and I don't even know that winning the game is the point.
Yeah,
I tend to feel like games like this, like winning isn't really the point.
I took a look at what it actually takes to win, like the base victory conditions, and they're ridiculous. Like,
They're possible, technically.
yes, technically possible is how I would put that.
Yeah,
What
but
do
for
they
me, like,
require?
They require either colonizing 40% of colonizable planets
Wow.
or eliminating every other independent empire. So everyone else is either in your alliance or gone.
Good God.
It's crazy.
Wait,
like, for
was
me, my end game in all of these is just to build a rad space empire.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like when we started a game, I was like, okay, I want a big galaxy and a minimum of empires because I want to explore. I want to explore and set things up and set up an infrastructure and not worry about like, I don't know. When we started our first game, we did a ring galaxy and we ended up sandwiched in between two expanding empires and like getting crushed. And I'm like, this isn't fun. I mean, I get that some people would find the tension and the excitement of trying to figure out that situation and play like that fun. But for somebody that just wants to like discover planets and stuff, like it's not a secret that I really, really like things like Starbound and that I'm incredibly looking forward to like No Man's Sky. And that's more my jam, but I'm still finding things that I really, really like with Stellaris.
Yeah. So we Kodra and Ash and I have been playing a multiplayer game, and Kodra got a really good start. Ash got a sort of okay start-ish. My start was garbage. Like my start put my homeworld with only 2 star systems in warp range, and none of them had resources, or barely any resources. So I was forced to expand.
Oh dear.
And it made this really interesting thing because while they were building up their empires and their fleets, I had a fleet of science vessels traveling the galaxy and uncovering the map. And I had at one point, I'm pretty sure I shared my star charts with them, and their whole galaxy just lit up. And it was cool.
I really enjoy playing games like that for that aspect, and I tend to go more pacifist because of that. Like I like the idea of like, building up a civilization and then going out and doing like diplomatic things. Like that's more my thing that I enjoy. To that point, I kind of disagree with you that I'm not very far into the game to be fair, but I kind of disagree that it rewards lots of different styles of play. I think what it rewards is a core balance with like slight divergences in different directions, but I don't feel like if you're not balanced, it like punishes you.
That's fair. I'm also thinking more like of the mid-late game stuff where you are a more specialized empire, because you do start really middle of the road early on. But yeah, you kind of need to explore all of the things that the game has as opposed to focusing on just one of them.
Yeah, like we didn't really like on our first playthrough, we didn't really like put a lot of any into expanding like our fleet or defenses or anything like that. And then when we finally got to the point where we needed them, it's like we just got wrecked. So like pacifist maybe doesn't mean pacifist. Pacifist maybe means like not aggressive but still defensive. And sometimes if you have a certain expectation, it can be a little bit more difficult to wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
But also I generally don't do a lot of empire building games. Like I'll do a lot of no, I really feel like Dwarf Fortress is like the only civilization game that I enjoy playing, and I enjoy other simulations, but I don't know what it is about Dwarf Fortress.
I really need to try that game, and I haven't for very shallow reasons.
Is it because the UI is kind of a bit garbagey?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what gets me every time. Like, I like the concept of this game, but I really don't want to return to the graphics I was playing in, like, the early 90s.
It has a nice, like, once you get into it, like, so my husband will tell you, and probably any of my friends will tell you, that I'm a big graphics snob usually. I'm like, oh, that game's like from the 90s. I don't want to play it now. It'll look like crap. But there's something like once I got past the like, oh, this is letters. Okay, I guess that works. There was like a nice nostalgia about it, but there was also a like the game creators do such a good job of putting in all of this wonderfully like procedurally generated story and hyper descriptive everything, and it starts painting a picture for you in the same way that like reading a book does, and that's really nice from a game.
I guess I played a lot of BBS store games once upon a time, and this reminds me of the ANSI graphic BBS store games.
Yes, that is yes.
And that's not an era that I really want to revisit in my life.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Oh, to move away from Dwarf Fortress and bring it back to Stellaris, one thing that I'm super interested in doing is like I want to make all the alien races from Animorphs. How dorky is that?
I am going to be first in line to download the Mass Effect mod.
Ooh, cross lore. Oh, we were having this discussion.
I feel like every fictional sci-fi species that has been written so far has people working on a mod for Stellaris that includes it.
Yeah, pretty much.
If I can get one that has Star Trek ships or like other like people are gonna have some sweet mods for this game, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, I love mods. There's not any right now because like what, a week old?
There's
not even a week old yet.
Not even a week old, and there's actually
and there are mods for this game already.
I can believe it, but I mean, like, the really good ones, they take time to do because,
it's true, the really
quality.
impressive ones.
Usually, like, the first mods that show up for games are, like, how to make your character's butt look better.
It's fair. The ones I'm using, I actually like playable robots, start on a ring world, and is that it?
Wait, are you already using mods for this game?
Maybe.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Are they just Steam Workshop mods?
Yeah, it's all through Steam Workshop, so you can see what people are doing on Steam Workshop.
I'm weird in that, like, some games I just, like, don't want to mod and I won't, like, let mods touch. And then the other thing, it's like, okay, I'm 10 hours into this game. Where are my mods? Fallout, come on. Where are my Fallout mods? I need X, Y, Z. Come on. I should really learn how to mod so that I'm not so demanding. Learn how to do it my damn self, not just be like, come on, modding community, why haven't you fixed all of the things that I don't like about it already? It's been like a couple weeks.
Speaking of Fallout, is the GEC actually out yet, or?
It is out, and some of like my favorite modders have started releasing mods, like Eleonora's started releasing house mods for, and like all the like factional room spaces she's redone, and they're super cool, and I really like them quite a bit. So I think Jonathan right now is making I know he was going to make the like Masters of Orion races for Stellaris, and I think he's playing some at the moment.
It's fantastic. It's a super moddable planet or game.
They keep a lot of things in text files.
Yeah.
So this initial set of changes is pretty much just changing things in text files.
My goal for the next couple months is to move without dying of stress. But after that, I'm going to try to learn how to mod stuff so that I can do all the like bullshit mods that I want.
In the grand scheme of things, mods are actually, especially with a GEC or something like that, there's a lot of busy work involved, but they're not that hard. I mean, they take a long time to generate, but it depends on the scope of the thing you're trying to do. So, is it a huge extensible system that you can modify? And yeah, those are going to take forever. But if it's like, I want to add a new character here, and it always is going to spawn in this location and has this dialogue, that's not as difficult.
I always wanted to make like my own voiced companion that you could take with you, and then like my annoying ass can follow you around all game. Sorry, I'm still on Fallout and Skyrim and things like that.
I do want to say an interesting thing about this game is that you really can't just take over a place. Like, in most games, you go to war, you beat a location, and then that becomes yours, and, like, they don't like you periodically, but, like, you eventually assimilate them into your group. And in a lot of ways, you aren't doing that in this. You're actually more, like, you're now a subject of me.
I noticed that too. I ran up against like another race of aliens. So the ones that we were playing, we made our own. We made some like mushroom people because they're super funny. And we made them like really, really xenophilic and really, really what the hell was the pacifist? Really pacifist and like fanatically xenophilic. And we ran into another race that was pacifist and fanatically xenophilic, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, let's be friends." And then we were, but then I was like, "Join an alliance," and then like, okay, we're in an alliance now. Why are you still you? Like, why haven't you been absorbed into me? Oh my god, your borders are still encroaching on my borders. What the hell? You're still getting bigger? You're still squeezing me out? I've got guys on the other side, and you're gonna, like, squish me. What the hell? I get really excited. Sorry.
It's alright. Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
That's definitely... It's weird. Like, I don't have a great way of saying, oh, I need to see my empire grow. Because even when my empire starts to grow, I can only have 5 planets in my empire. And I had the most advanced form of government possible for that type of stuff, and I could still only have 9 planets in my empire. Any other planet I have to, like, put into their own separate sector where they are autonomous from me, and maybe they get a little bit uppity and decide that no, they don't want to be a like autonomous colony of me. They want to be independent, and then they demand their independence. Keep your sectors
happier.
Yeah, you gotta stop treating your subjects like crap, Kodra. Jeez.
I treat my subjects very well, thank you. I gave all of those mushroom people the right to vote and the right to be leaders.
Cool. So you gave them like basic human rights.
Yep.
Good job.
Clearly that was your mistake. I'm saying, in a 4X game, despotism is the way to go.
I'm just messing with you, by the way.
I get it. No, it's just like, it's interesting. Because you don't, like, get to subsume the entire galaxy.
No,
you
that's
can
like
try,
definitely...
It's just not a great idea.
That was like a shock to me when I'm like, okay, yes, we're at the point where we can form an alliance, and you're still your own people. We're just like friends. Okay, I wanted to like absorb you.
You can do that, but it's a lot more involved.
You need to get to the point where they like you so much that they want to be your vassal.
Yes.
Yeah, but like...
Or
I don't know,
you can make them your vassal by conquering them.
No, pacifist. Like, I didn't want to just be like, that they were all like, oh my god, aliens, we're so happy to meet you. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Now you're part of us. We are conquering you. With no army, with no weapons or anything. We're just saying, like, just saying.
If you make them happy enough, then they will, agree to become your vassals. And then if they're your vassals for 10 years, you can start to make them part of your empire.
Our people were so happy, though. Like, I found out, we were like an enlightened monarchy. I found out you can build like these beautiful gardens that are like a tribute to your king or queen or whatever on the planets. And that was really cool. I liked finding stuff like that. Like those little things that you could do. I'm like, oh, these are the gardens of Juvuvi. I can't remember her last name because it's like a complicated fungoid name. But it was this special gardens on our home planet. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Have you found a teapot orbiting a sun yet?
No, I haven't. That's weird.
What?
The game has Russell's teapot.
Yes.
That's amazing.
The game has Russell's teapot, and you can spend like 8 months researching it, and like everyone gives up at the end.
Yeah, we don't know why this is here. This is so dumb.
If you're a materialist empire.
So Jonathan, I think he said he found the tree from the fountain, like a tree in a bubble.
Oh, yes. That's a thing. That thing is amazing. That tree is the best. I love that
he was
tree.
like a bunch of like gross like slavery bug people, so he probably didn't get anything good from it. He's making a face at me.
Every so often, I have a slaver run for president, and I'm like, no, what? No. Stop.
Why would you do that? No.
Oh, that's the other thing I want to talk about is democracy and how it's hilarious.
Oh, that democracy.
Because
it's pretty funny.
If you are a democracy, you held elections every 4 years or 5 years. And all of the politicians are like running on certain platforms. And when they come into power, they have mandates that they are trying to fulfill, basically their campaign promises. And if you fulfill them, you get influence. But most of the time it's really hard to fulfill, so they just go unfulfilled unless I do it accidentally.
Yeah, I just solidly avoided democracy because I did not want to deal with the like ruler turnover every 5 years. I was like, that seems like it's an extra. I mean, I'm sure it's super interesting. I'll probably do it at some point, but I was like, that seems like an extra layer of complexity that's just gonna make my life more difficult, and I'm just trying to get around here.
It's actually really interesting because
It means your bonuses rotate through rather quickly unless you happen to have an empire that reelects someone repeatedly, like I did.
Which I did. But
I ended up.
Go ahead.
Oh, I ended up when we started a new game, because like that one we were just getting like squeezed by the two empires, like squished slowly, did not work out. We started the next one. We decided to make the fungus people be what the hell, the like moral bureaucracy, maybe that's what it was. And then we got a new leader every like 40 or 50 years instead of like when the queen dies. And the first queen that we started with in the first game was like long life. So she was just never gonna die, ever. And she didn't have, like, super useful traits either. She was just really old.
The race the developers decided to play for their weekly streams when they were showing it off had the venerable trait, which is something like, I think, a plus 120 years life expectancy.
Oh, yeah, that looked super cool, but it was really expensive.
It's a really expensive trait.
It's like +4, I think, so you have to take 2 negatives to balance it out, and then that's, like, the only positive you can get.
Yep. So they took solitary and repugnant. So no one liked them.
Including themselves.
Aw, that's so sad. Like, Tam was telling me about, like, the mushroom people that no one liked. Like, they were super friendly. I made sure when we made mushroom people that they were super charismatic and everyone's, like, loves them, because I felt so sad after hearing that. I'm like, oh, these mushroom people, they love everyone, but everyone hates them because they're gross.
They just wanted to be mushrooms.
Yeah, it hits a little too close to home. I'm like, I like people, and I'm gross, so no one likes me.
No.
I'm just being funny and self-deprecating. Actually, everyone loves me because I'm great.
See, that's better.
Oscillate wildly between, like, narcissism and I don't know what the other one is. Yeah. You can edit that out, probably. Or not.
No.
Comedic value.
No editing out.
We don't edit much out.
Okay.
Just be warned.
Oh dear, now everyone will know that I like myself.
The shock and horror.
But yeah, the mushroom people. I made sure that they were well received by everyone. I was like, oh, maybe they're like cute little dancing mushroom people. I'm sure that's probably like, I can never shake the feeling that when I'm talking about the aliens, that I feel like the way that I'm referring to them is probably, if I were in that world, would be like super racist. Like, oh, mushroom people, bug people. Oh, that's so funny.
I may have made a race of the fox dog people, and I called them the Corgis.
That's wonderful.
The world needs more corgis.
I like their fluffy butts. They're so cute. Oh no, see, now I'm objectifying them. I'm so sorry. I'm the worst person.
You may be overthinking this.
That's the thing that I do.
Yeah. Okay.
What forms of star travel have you guys played around with?
I've played around with warp and hyperspace, and I mostly prefer warp.
Yeah, we did warp.
I know Ash has tried wormhole and liked it.
I actually really like wormhole.
I'm not really sure what the advantage of hyperspace lanes are.
They're really fast.
They're fast.
They're really fast, and you can jump from anywhere in the planet, in a system. You don't have to get away from the star.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool.
I mean, the connectivity problems they kind of suck, but it is much faster than warp. Like, warp feels very, very slow to me because I played hyperspace my first time.
But you can go everywhere without really, like, having to get all tangled up like spaghetti.
True, but there's still a limited distance for each jump.
Yes, that does suck. I might have swore a couple times about that.
It's one of the reasons I really like wormhole, because while you can only jump to or from a system with a wormhole station, the range is, at the start, much, much larger than the normal warp range.
That's pretty cool. Maybe I'll play around with the wormhole then.
The downside is you probably have to dedicate a construction ship to traveling around making wormhole stations.
And then if somebody decides to go to war with you, they'll break them all.
Which is why you have more than you need.
What a dick move. They break your wormhole stations?
It's a super great way.
Pretty effective.
Yeah.
It takes away a big advantage.
Yeah, I'm just so surprised at how mean everyone is in the galaxy. They're like, oh, we're at war. I'm going to break your travel. That sucks for you, I guess.
I like it better than bombarding planets.
Look, there's a reason I play pacifistically. Like, I'll see the things,
too.
and I'm like, this is so mean. Oh my god, you guys are so mean. I'm not playing anymore.
Man. I know I always come off as a huge warmonger, but for the most part, I don't attack anyone until they betray me. And then when they betray me, I go on the warpath.
That reminded me of when I played Spore, I made a super charismatic race of little pink fluffy penguin people, but I also gave them super good claws. So when they sang for everybody, if they didn't accept it, I just ripped them apart. I feel like I've said several things at this point that are going to have the listeners worried about my mental state.
I'm totally considering calling the podcast episode Objectifying Corgis.
That's the best.
Sold. Oh my god, Space Squid. Why?
I feel like since Inky is talking about the way she plays simulation games, this might be a good time to segue into the Sims 4 conversation.
Oh my god, yes. The Sims 4. Okay, so I started a rags to riches type thing where you go and you buy a lot and you cheat to get rid of all the money and you literally have to start from scratch. And this is vastly different to how I normally play The Sims, which is I use the money cheat because I just want to build houses and shit and I don't want to have to worry about I don't want to simulate having shitty stuff and going to a job. Isn't that just the sucky part of real life? I want to build mansions and have an amazing time. So I started that and my Sims started I wanted to have criminals. So I made one a hacker and I made the other one a kleptomaniac. So she steals stuff from people's houses, electronics from people's houses and upgrades it and stuff. And then I started a retail store that was just I built a shady looking shack on a lot and she just sells stolen electronics out of there.
Okay, that's amazing.
But then I had the idea that with the new traits and things in The Sims, and the fact that with the latest, I think it was with the latest expansion, it doesn't matter. They introduced a whole new empty city where there's nothing there and you can just fully build stuff up. I really want to build Stardew Valley in The Sims. With all the houses and all of the people.
I approve of this. That sounds great.
What a fucking project. It'll take me ages, but then it would be so much fun because I really, really like all the people in Stardew Valley, with the exception of one. Spoiler alert, it's Haley. She's the worst.
Wow.
Maybe I won't make her.
You could just make her and make her the worst.
Or you could make her and make her not be the worst.
Oh yes, I could improve her. No, I'll make her and I'll keep her be the worst because, that adds some flavor.
I was thinking the guy who runs Joya Mart.
Speaking of the worst, I already lost a Stellaris game in the 10 minutes since we stopped talking about the game and now. Anyway, The Sims.
But yeah, who said Joja Mart? I'm not making Joja Mart. They're the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I said Haley was the worst, but I could make Joja Mart and make Haley be an employee there and then no one goes there because it's shitty and she's the worst.
Her and Shane would hang out.
I actually like Shane. He's depressed. He's a depressed man.
Mostly I just feel bad for Shane.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick, but I've also been depressed before, and I was also kind of a dick, so I kind of get it. I could pair up Haley with... Who's the jock guy? I guess he also has, a tragic backstory or whatever. It makes it really hard to dislike everyone.
Tragic backstories.
Yeah, it's I don't want to dislike you because you've had hardship in your life. But, whatever. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I want to make Stardew Valley in The Sims, and it'll take me forever, and I probably won't finish it because that's the sort of person I am. But I'll probably at least make what's her face? Robin's house because I really like Maru and Sebastian, and Robin's super cool, and I visited their house all the time and gave them fruit and things.
So Stardew Valley really is Animal Crossing.
It is and it isn't. It's more in-depth Animal Crossing. I never felt like I had any sort of meaningful interactions with any of the animals in Animal Crossing. Maybe I played Animal Crossing badly. Maybe that's what that was, but
The only things I know about Animal Crossing are from that one story, the talking about the slaver raccoon.
What's his face? I can't remember his name. Yeah, the raccoon, who in earlier games, like every time you go to pay off your debt, he's like, "Oh, well, I applied this to your house upgrade and now you're in more debt."
Tom Nook.
Nook, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, he's
He
they made him
doesn't
slightly
do
less of an
that.
extortionist in your later games, right?
Yeah, he's not like that in the New Leaf. I guess that's what it is, New Leaf.
Oh yeah, the Animal Crossing from the Let's Play archive, the story about Billy, the true story of Billy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
I'm gonna have to read that later. Oh, I read a funny article recently about, no, that's really off topic. It was about Fallout 4, and somebody did a Let's Play where, like, Preston randomly turned hostile against them, and they were doing, like, a survival mode permanent death thing. So they just, like, could never sleep because Preston was hunting them down. And it was really, really funny. They're, like, always looking over their shoulder for, like, Preston freaking Garvey, who's immortal and can't die.
Here's Preston.
Pretty much. At some point, their game got fixed, and then he wasn't hostile anymore, but I think he spent, like, several hours just, like, I don't know if you read or played the survival mode beta where, like, basically you had to, like, eat and drink, and you got sick all the time, and you couldn't save unless you slept in a bed and all of that stuff. Like, I tried playing it, but I got frustrated with the one particular aspect of, like, you can't save unless you sleep in a bed. I was cool with everything else, like the increased damage, the, like, super danger, sickness, everything, but just that I can't save unless I sleep in a bed was a deal breaker for me. But yeah, he was playing one of those, and then he decided, like, if he died, that was it. And then Preston goes randomly hostile from, like, one weird encounter.
Well,
I'm really excited for, Far Harbor to come out, because I should get back to doing Fallout. I thought about maybe trying to do, like, a Twitch stream or something if, like, anyone's super interested in watching that. I don't know why anyone would be, but I'd have fun with it, and
streaming's
like
a lot of fun.
Man,
I'll say.
I go back and forth on streaming. Like, there are days that I'm like, streaming sounds like a good idea. And then I actually sit down to do it, and I'm like, I don't really have to want to interact with anybody.
Well, if you hadn't noticed, I actually really like talking a lot, and I talk a lot, and I talk fast and loud, and from what I understand, that's a pretty good quality in a streamer, and now I'm thinking.
Oh, it absolutely is. That my problem is, like, I can keep up the narrative for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, and then I go silent for a while, and then I remember, oh crap, I should probably be talking.
See, I feel like it helps if you... So, I've done a lot of streams to an empty room, and that's kind of why I don't stream as much anymore.
It's kind of demoralizing when you realize you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, what I will say is, let us know when you stream, because I'd probably jump in and be in the chat, because having a bunch of people, like, chatting at you is really fun when you're playing a video game.
Well, the other big problem, the problem I had was, like, there are competing forces on streaming. Like, there's Hitbox and Twitch and YouTube Gaming, and they all have good technical points. They all have good technical weaknesses.
You're saying things right now. What you're actually saying is there's Twitch.
Well, okay, but the problem is Twitch is the worst from a standpoint.
Yes, but it's got all the people, so it's the only one that matters.
I know, but it's frustrating as hell because, like, you're trying to have a conversation with people in your chat, but it's like 15. I don't know. It's a long delay. It's like 30 seconds at best, and at the worst, especially if somebody's been watching the stream, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. You can have, like, comments rolling in a minute late, and it's impossible to have any kind of dialogue with somebody that's sitting there watching you. And it's frustrating because, like, Hitbox and YouTube are technically better, but nobody uses them.
Well, I guess that's how it goes sometimes. I was probably just going to use Twitch because, like Ash said, that's kind of what everyone uses, and I think everyone's set up to sort of watch there and all that. But if anyone wants to watch me do that, let me know. I tend to, when I play games, just sort of like talk to myself and yell at the screen and make funny, I don't know, funny commentary, I guess. I think it's funny. I think I'm hilarious. So, let me know if you want to actually see that. And Kodra, I appreciate the like, hey, I'll come chat with you, because it might be a little depressing doing that to an empty room. It's one thing if I'm just doing that at home, but it's another thing if I've set myself up on the internet. I'm like, hey, oh, okay.
Coder and I actually got people watching. I mean, when we randomly decided to stream Bloodborne, we had people watching. We had people watching us for the entire 2 hours we did it, die over and over again.
It was fun.
That sounds fun. Is it the sort of, I mean, I know it's the sort of thing where people do video, but do people just do audio, or not really? There is no audio, only video.
I do just audio sometimes.
Like audio of you talking over the game? I mean, I can't imagine that not having the game video would be...
Oh, no. No camera, though.
Yeah.
Lots of people don't use cameras. Yeah, lots of people don't use cameras.
Not that I'm averse to using cameras, I just don't really have one. And I don't want to just go out and buy one. I don't need one.
Yeah. So, segue, because I don't have a segue. Game came out this week. Doom. And I had talked early on, I don't know what, a couple weeks back in my experiences trying the PC and PS4 multiplayer betas, and I did not exactly give glowing review of the game. And I was completely set not to pick the game up until it released, and people started talking about the single player campaign being really good. So I went ahead and picked it up, and I have a much better point of view on the game than I did. But that said, I don't really think it's the sort of game that anyone in this channel is really going to enjoy. It's not like Wolfenstein was, where it has this deep, meaningful story. You're still a Marine on Mars fighting back a horde of, hell beasts that were summoned through a rift. It's a little closer to Doom 3 than I originally expected. It has a bit of a story, and you're discovering elements of the story. But so the big problem with the multiplayer was that it felt like this weird throwback to the 90s. And it didn't work because we've evolved in what we want from a shooter past run real fast and hit other players. But on the single player campaign, it actually kind of works. The design, so for the last, I don't know, 10 and a half years or so, games have filtered towards a open world type feel. And this is very much closed arenas. And in fact, they label the missions like Episode 1, Mission 1, Episode 1, Mission 2, like the original Doom. And they are a fixed puzzle that you have to solve. And by puzzle, I mean it's you're looking for key cards, you're looking for ways to access areas of the map. But there is a end point to the map, just like flipping the switch in the original Doom, and that ends the level and you move on to the next one. And the other interesting thing about it is there are no save games. Well, there are no player-controlled saves. Everything is checkpoint-based. And for the most part, the checkpoints are happening quick enough that you don't feel like you've lost a lot of ground. But you're still not necessarily in total control of where you are resuming from. So the game plays a lot like the old 90s era shooters, like the original Doom, or Duke Nukem, or Shadow Warrior, or even Rise of the Triad, where you have basically a closed map that you have to navigate your way to the end of, and then you get to the next area. So I'm really enjoying it, but I don't think it's necessarily the game for everyone.
Wow,
that's funny, because I spent so many hours of my life playing the original Doom, but I have changed so much, and my tastes have changed so much since that time, that is not the sort of game that I would necessarily be attracted to at this point in my life.
Yeah, it's what? Continue.
Oh, I was gonna say, so I have like a soft spot for the original Doom and the original Wolfenstein because those were like the first games that I played. And by played, I mean like my dad was in the room playing and I would just like sit and watch him play for hours. So like, I don't know, I have a special soft spot for those.
Yeah.
And then I enjoyed playing them as I got old enough to play them. And then like in college, finding them and playing them again just as for myself. But I could definitely see how something like that could, like, at least that sort of game structure could feel maybe a little dated these days.
Well, honestly, what it really reminds me of is the video game series Painkiller. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever played that.
Yes.
Okay, so it feels really similar because you'll progress to a room and then they'll throw a silly amount of things at you and you have to survive the waves, and then you're free to explore the room until you move to the next room, and then they should throw another set of waves of mobs at you. So that was kind of the way that Painkiller worked. Like, so you would move to an area, and they would just throw all kinds of stuff at you, and it was hard to survive. So this game has that going on in a large part. And it's hard. Like, it's really hard. And they added in the glory kill system, where when a mob is almost dead, you do the stuff like rip their head off or rip their arm off. And I thought at first it was just this gory mess that, they're doing Mortal Kombat finishing moves. But they've actually made it so realistically you need to be doing it or you're not going to get enough health or you're not going to get enough ammo. Because by doing it, you get extra ammo or extra health or extra shield or... It's weird. And the game has kind of a parkour element to it too, but it's more parkour on autopilot than Mirror's Edge or something like that.
This is such a weird description. Like, as somebody who hasn't played like since like literally just Doom, man, that sounds different.
It feels a lot like the original, and like I feel like they were absolutely trying to recreate the feel of the original Doom in a modern interface that has some measure of graphical fidelity. And in the multiplayer, that didn't work at all, and it just didn't feel good. In the single player, it actually works surprisingly well. Like, it is very much a throwback game, but it's enjoyable even though it's a throwback game. So, I don't know, like, I mean, I've played it probably 2.5 hours now. I'm only on, I think, the 3rd mission. The other thing that's kind of cool is as you're roaming around, so you'll get challenges to do. So it's not just that you have to make your way through a level. There are like little achievements that you can get in the level for doing certain things. And doing those will unlock weapon upgrade points, and you can tweak your weapon loadout to do different things. So like your shotgun, by default, is just the standard combat shotgun that Doom has always had. But you can get alternate fire versions that when you hold down the right mouse button, it allows you to fire a grenade that'll bounce around, kind of like the Quake grenade did. And you can use that to like get multiple mobs at the same time. Or there's another alternate fire for that same weapon that you can flip over to. And similarly, it's a charged attack, but this time it fires 3 shotgun shells in a row, which is really good for super powerful mobs, but your shotgun only has like 20 shells. So firing them 3 at a time is going to burn through your ammo reserves like mad. And I had to spend a lot of time running around with the infinite ammo pea shooter that you start off with because I ran out of ammo. But, that one can be charged up too, so at least it's manageable. I don't know, like, it's a weird game, and it doesn't quite fit into any of the current crop of shooters, but it works.
So I played a couple of levels of Painkiller, and that was tough. Like, I think I don't like that type of game anymore.
Okay. Yeah, like, I don't think you would like this, Kodra, at all. Like, all of the reasons why you liked Wolfenstein New Order, and I think all of the reasons why you didn't really like Old Blood.
I haven't played Old Blood.
Oh, I thought you had played Old Blood,
No.
And you didn't like it. Anyway, but Old Blood is very much a throwback to the original Wolfenstein feel. And this takes that same idea and goes a step further. And it's got a lot of new trappings, but it almost feels at times like you're playing the original Doom. And they've created new versions of the original soundtrack that will play periodically. And like I can hum the tunes in my head as I hear them going. And there's this weird system where you find these little Funko dolls, basically. They're like little Funko versions. They're not Funko, but they look like that style of the Doom guy, and each one unlocks something when you find it. It's weird. But it's a good kind of weird.
I love shit like that in games. I like finding collectibles.
There's so far there's been 3 to 4 secrets each map, and I have maybe found one of them so far.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're like well hidden. And I think you can replay maps at will, just in part because like there's achievements to get, and you're going to need to get those achievements to eventually unlock all the weapons. But, it's like I can only stand playing it for a short period of time because I'll die in a stupid place and then I'll get respawned and I'll go back further than I realized and I'll get frustrated and I'll stop for a while. So I've played it in basically 3 sessions, and at each time when I started to get frustrated, I put it down and moved on to something else. Because like in the normal difficulty, it's really hard. Like it's not easy to get through these levels. Mostly because the stupid imp guys are just as annoying as they ever were. This time they'll hang off the side of a wall to where they're just out of your visual range and they'll throw fireballs at you. So you have to like make a point of trying to deal with them and aiming up at them. But like with a shotgun, you have to get like really close to aim up at them.
Oh,
but anyway,
they sound like the guys that are really annoying on the way to the Deacons of the Deep. They're little imps that hang on the side of walls and then drop down and stab you and murder you to the death.
It's that, but with fireballs.
Yeah.
And the problem is like this movement is a big thing in this game, where like the levels are not just straight traversal. You have to jump around from platform to platform. And what kept happening to me is I would jump up to a platform to take care of an imp, and it would jump down to a lower platform and then fireball me. And I would play musical chairs with this imp moving from platform to platform until I could finally take him out. But anyway, it's a thing, and I felt like I needed to talk about it since I did not give it a good review before. I've not played multiplayer at all. I'm probably not going to play multiplayer. I will probably play with the Snap Map building tool just to build some maps, but I doubt I'll play much multiplayer because that style of multiplayer doesn't really interest me anymore. I think another new thing this week, Grace, you played some Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, I mean that's not new in terms of new games, but it's new to me. So when I started talking about it on my blog a little bit, I decided to go back and try to look at decode when I actually stopped playing, because I knew it was before the first big patch came out, and I hadn't seen any of the really new content. And it turns out that I think I stopped playing sometime in September. So it was a lot longer ago than I thought. And when I first returned, I was frustrated by the bane of everyone returning to an MMO that they've quit for a while, which is like full bags, getting really angry, like my UI was terrible, my bags were terrible, like everything was terrible. I was ready to just like turn around and not play. And so I like fixed all my stuff, and then I had to set it aside for a couple of days because I was so angry at it. But when I came back, I can't remember why I stopped playing this game. Well, I know why I stopped, but I've been having so much fun. And there's, it's been long enough that there's now more than enough for me to do to keep me busy. And, I've been playing a bunch of World of Warcraft lately. And, oh my gosh, how did I forget how freaking beautiful Final Fantasy XIV is? Because it's night and day coming from something like WoW, which isn't hideous, but it's old and it feels old, and even the new zones are not what I would necessarily call beautiful. But like running around through some of the new dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV that I hadn't seen yet, like those were beautiful. So I don't know, I've been really enjoying it. Again, like I do know why I left, and that is going to loom eventually, sort of running into the content wall and the bleeding edge of progression that I can't really get close to anymore. But for the time being, there's plenty for me to do, and I'm so happy to be back. And I think the big thing for me was that I had sworn off healing for a while after I stopped playing Final Fantasy. And, I had done a tiny bit of it in WoW and a teeny tiny bit in WildStar, and I was always a healer in MMOs, and I loved it, but the drain of people being idiots and sort of the pace of combat, I think, has changed over the years. No one is taking their leisurely time in a dungeon. People are screaming go go go, and people are getting angry and being stupid, and I just lost all my patience for it. And when I logged back into Final Fantasy XIV, the first thing that I did when I got my UI set up was run a random dungeon. And I threw myself in the leveling roulette, and I got one of the Heavensward dungeons, I think it was Somal, that I barely remember from when I was leveling the first time. And it was great. It was beautiful. It was fun. The mechanics, are just, they're so crisp. Like, the movement and the flow of the fights, even when they're annoying, you can't really complain about them, because if you screw up, it's on you. It's not because of RNG or because, oh, I thought that line was there, but it was really over here. No. Everything is very crisp and clear what you need to do, and it's on you to do it. And I really, just really enjoyed being back in that environment. So I've been having a blast. And also I ran with some folks and I won 2 ponies, and so that's kind of a thing. So
Which ponies did you get?
I got the Garuda pony, which is amazing because I love the Garuda fight music. And I got the black unicorn pony.
Oh, from Odin?
No, it's it's the one that randomly drops off of Garuda.
So what happened here is we killed Garuda twice, and within 2 kills, Grace got both ponies from that fight.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Felt a little bad. I'm sure everyone probably hated me because, oh hey, I just randomly came back to the game this week and showed up at your raid, and I took all the ponies.
Look, no more than they hated me for getting our one and only pony for the longest time.
But we did continue running things all night, and lots of other people also won ponies. In fact, I think by the end of the night, everyone in the raid had the Garuda pony, so
yes.
That's, I feel less bad.
Did they just
the
crank
pony.
up the drop rate?
Yeah,
they cranked up the drop rate when Heavensward came out. And also, takes us less than 3 minutes to kill Garuda.
Okay. I need to get back in, but for whatever reason, I have this anxiety block about going and playing that game, and I don't understand it fully. And I think it's in part because, I really didn't enjoy the tanking that I did in WoW, and I know they're apples and oranges, but I have this mental block against tanking right now.
I got burnt out on MMOs in general. Well, that type of MMO, and I'm kind of getting back around to where I have the itch, but right now I have so many games to play.
Yeah, I mean, I had absolutely gotten sick of healing, and when I came back, I did it and realized that, oh hey, I actually still do like it. But also, I think, I don't know, one of the things that I've kind of always loved about Final Fantasy is that if you don't feel like being a tank, be something else. You can be whatever the heck you want, and you don't lose any of your progress, and you don't, you can really choose whatever you feel like doing and just do it at any given time, and you don't have to switch characters and lose all your stuff. It's so flexible. Of course, I might be slightly spoiled because my main class is Scholar, and so I can cheat, and I have Summoner right there for free, but yeah.
I think, like, I don't know, one of the things was I've gotten super into Destiny, and I've seen that is a game that has no roles, but absolutely still has interesting fight mechanics without roles. And like, just the concept of going back to tanking and the Trinity was like, which is weird because, like, for years I have been the hugest proponent of, the continuance of the Holy Trinity, but I think it's just because I hadn't ever seen a game that was able to deliver on interesting, raid mechanics without having the Trinity.
Well, instead you got to see a whole bunch of games do it wrong.
Yeah, like, I've seen a lot of games do it badly, where they tried to abolish the Trinity, and then Destiny, I don't think necessarily set out to abolish the Trinity. They still have classes, but there's no tank, there's no healer, everybody's DPS, but your own survival is your responsibility, and even if you don't survive, your teammates can bring you back, but it's weird. Like, that game did it really well, especially with raid mechanics, where making it feel like these are meaningful things that we're doing, but there's not necessarily roles. And I think the interesting thing there was, like, the only difference between, like, a normal and a hard mode is in hard mode you can't res. So if anybody wipes, it's a full raid wipe, and you have to start from scratch. I mean, you have to start over at the encounter. But in normal mode, like, while people are learning the encounters, anybody can res anybody anytime. And I thought that was kind of a cool breakdown. But that was honestly, like, one of the things I always liked about Final Fantasy XIV was, for the most part, like, you can just keep resing people if you have the resources or the lull in the fight to do it. And it always felt artificial in WoW when you get one res per 10 players per however many minutes.
Yeah, I
added that in Kata, right?
Yeah.
I understand why they chose to do that, but it feels terrible for someone who's not chasing the world first or something.
Well, and, like, especially playing modern WoW, it was always frustrating that, like, there wasn't really a learner mode. You would think LFR would serve as a learning mode for fights, but they water down the mechanics to the point where you don't even have to use them. So there really isn't I just want to learn this fight. There's normal, which is, for some people is super easy, for other people it's difficult. But I definitely think, as far as traditional MMOs, Final Fantasy has been some of the more enjoyable raid content. That is until Heaven's Word. How is the later Alexander stuff?
I actually don't have the high enough item level to see it yet, but I am working on it.
Ash, have you done any of the later phases of Alexander?
They're cool fights, but it's not dramatically more difficult than the first Alexander was.
Okay.
But there are mechanics. You better believe there are mechanics.
really, really enjoyed Alexander. Like, I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed our time working through the coils of Bahamut, but I also like having the opportunity to have a raid that's a little bit more bite-sized, but also puggable, and so that sort of fit that bill. Now, is there no equivalent of Crystal Tower?
There is. The Void Arc is the first stage of that, and the next stage is coming with the next patch.
Okay, so I just haven't seen any of that yet. But
Void Arc was in, but I haven't actually done it yet.
Void Arc's pretty cool. Kind of like it.
I have to
It also
get
has
myself
a
in there.
quest line which is somewhat more interesting than, hey, here's FF3 again.
I think one of my favorite aspects of Final Fantasy XIV raiding was the fact that every raid has a fixed end time. Like, you have this much time to try, and then you're done. Like, and that amount of time always felt like a reasonable period for us to be working on something. So that it doesn't feel like you're grinding your head against a stone or something.
Well, I also really love that at least for the 8-person raids, that each boss was self-contained and its own instance, basically, and maybe a little bit of trash. And it makes working on the fights so much more, I don't know, it's so much more pleasurable because you don't have to fight your way through an entire raid full of bosses to get to the one thing that you really wanted to work on that week. You can go straight to where you want, and if it's becoming a problem, you can bounce around to something else, and you can go in the order that works for your raid group, and you can focus on the things that you want to or need to. It's just, I don't know, it's like, it's such a simple concept and convenience, and I don't know why more games don't go in that direction. I mean, there's something to be said.
There's a downside, because it means you don't get raids like Ulduar.
Right, well, that's exactly where I was going. It's like you lose raids like Ulduar, you lose that bigger sense of place, and I totally see that, but in recent raids, in games that I've played, I don't necessarily feel that great sense of place anyway. I mean, in recent raids in WoW, in WildStar, I mean, I like the design of them, but there's nothing so amazing about the location that I feel like I would lose a ton by not walking through those long hallways every week.
Well, I think part of it for me is the fact that, like, modern WoW raid design is built in such a way that it is so modular that they can chop it up into small segments so they can LFR it.
Yeah.
So it feels like they're already separate encounters, and it doesn't feel like there's any narrative expanse that you're crossing as you go through the zone. But you still have to go through the zone, and you still have to deal with so much freaking trash. And I think it's
feel like the only game with trash I actually like the Secret World.
Yeah, agreed.
That game also was super trash light, and all of the trash served a purpose to teach you mechanics.
That's why I liked it.
Well, I feel like a lot of the trash in Final Fantasy XIV also serves to teach you mechanics, but, like, especially in a World of Darkness or Crystal Tower type dungeon, people are pushing through it so fast that they're not absorbing the lesson they're supposed to be learning.
I actually kind of disagree. I don't see those trash encounters really building on mechanics that...
They have mechanics, but they aren't always related to the boss mechanics.
Yeah.
I guess that's true, but a lot of them do show up, well, especially in, like, Crystal Tower, that they showed up in boss fights eventually. Like, the thing that trash is doing shows up somewhere in a boss fight.
And I think, yes, eventually people power through those, but when they're new, that's not true. And when like a wing or a section is released, people are still paying some attention to the trash, at least for a couple weeks. I mean, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that people have to pay attention to trash at all is a different question. But I think at the time that things are new, it's tuned enough that people at least have to stop and pay attention for a little while.
I'll kind of posit that if you aren't having to pay any attention to kill the trash, then that trash is just there to waste your time.
Yeah, kind of in a similar boat. Like, I really care about whether or not games respect my time at this point.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe I didn't so much when we were first doing WoW content, and I definitely do now.
I absolutely didn't when I was first playing WoW, because I was a college student with a ton of free time. Not even a little bit. I was like, oh, sweet.
Well, and there was a certain newness to it. Like, all of these raidy type things were brand new. So, like, I didn't fully understand what was going on. So I was more open to taking time to learn it. But now I kind of understand what this raid thing is. And I know when it's working well, and I know when it's not working well. And I hate busy work in a raid instance.
Yep.
Like, it's a prime example of this is in Hellfire Citadel, there is this mob, and it's like a mini boss, and everyone avoids it. And it really only serves to be this paying attention point where if someone runs into it, it more than likely wipes the raid because we're not used to fighting it. And I just hate the fact that it exists. Like, why is that there? Like, it doesn't serve a purpose. It's just this, haha, you pulled it moment that everyone can, laugh at the newbie. And it's stupid. Like, it just wastes time. Like, okay, we wiped to that. Now somebody's going to get chastised because they touched the thing and waste our time. And why was it even there? Like, why did they put the effort into putting that mob there and making it different than the normal trash? It's not a quest mob. It doesn't do anything. It's just a really hard trash mob. And I kind of respect that, like, Final Fantasy XIV doesn't seem to have things like that quite so much.
Sometimes in a way that is frustrating.
That they don't have these things?
No. Like, sometimes they, like, I'm thinking of Labyrinth of the Ancients. That's a entirely legitimate challenge, even well past the point where it was relevant.
Yeah. because mechanics are still a thing.
Yeah, because you couldn't ignore the mechanics. And like some of the mechanics got more difficult and touchier when you had a lot of players. Or really powerful players.
Like those damn skeletons.
Mm-hmm. And I find that really interesting. It's
but I liked that
integrity, but
I liked that the content remained relevant though. Like, yeah, so okay, you're steamrolling Garuda, but Garuda was a special kind of fight that you could always steamroll. But can you still steamroll all of the other ones, like Odin?
You still can't steamroll Titan. You can steamroll Odin. You can't steamroll Titan, though.
Yeah.
Titan has mechanics.
Ifrit still has mechanics, too. Really, they all have mechanics, except Garuda.
Garuda doesn't have mechanics? Like,
it's ignorable.
Garuda has mechanics that you can ignore through sufficient DPS.
Okay.
This was true even at 50, which is why Garuda was always the target for light farming when people were doing that.
I feel like you still can't just break the spiny shard.
You absolutely can.
Yep, you totally can.
What?
If you're not
If you're going to kill her
synced.
before she even does the thing.
Oh, you're going to kill her in one... Oh, okay. That's not something that we were able to do.
No.
But being able to do silly things like that is fun after the fact. And I love that, unlike WoW, which has mounts and sort of prestige items that are in the raids that it removes when they are no longer current. Instead, Final Fantasy says, oh, we're going to make this more accessible because we know that people are going to be going back to do these things and they're going to go unsynced. And so let's just make ponies rain from the sky and everyone can have their pony. And then they can go back to doing things that, like, are helpful to everyone to do at max level or helping leveling folks instead of spending their time just farming this one thing for a pony.
Yeah, it's that respects your time thing again. Like when it's no longer a super rare like check out how fancy / lucky I was deal, it becomes this like, hey, we can have fun with this.
And I'm still super happy that I have that pony. Like, I don't care that everyone could go get that pony in maybe an hour's worth of work. Like, well, it's still awesome, and I get to hear the Garuda music every time that I run around.
Well, here's the thing. It's like Final Fantasy and its community have figured out that other people having nice things does not dilute the value of the nice thing for themselves.
Every so often people still get this mistaken, but...
Yeah, but that's like the most bleeding of bleeding edge in the Final Fantasy XIV community. In the WoW community, it feels like most people feel that you getting an achievement that I have dilutes the value of my achievement. Like, the whole friendship moose thing was a massive shock to me that the community got behind farming mooses for people. I totally expected that would be a point of snobbery, who has a moose and who doesn't, and it went exactly the opposite direction. But that was a shocker. Like, most things are like, no, you can't have my nice things because I have the nice things.
You didn't earn it. You didn't earn it in the way I did, therefore it's
well,
not.
And even what they're doing with the transmog system is a similar amount of bullshit. So, like, if you're in a raid and an item drops, say you're in the max tier raid on your warrior, and a really cool mage robe drops that's bind on pickup. Well, normally you would think, oh, cool, at least I get to get that appearance for my mage. But no, like, those high-end items, you can only collect the appearance if you've taken that character in to do that objective thing.
That
It drives me so crazy.
So my thing, and like, you know, WoW tangent, I realize, but my thing with WoW is that WoW, like, nothing's ever going to kill WoW. WoW is going to die when it starts to look old, and I don't know. It's that kind of description feels old. Like, that feels like something an old game that hasn't adapted would do.
Yeah, but it seems like oddly punitive.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going, it shouldn't really matter what character you're bringing. You should be able to get cool benefits from it.
In a game that, you know, it already makes your mounts and your pets and your achievements and all of that account-wide, it feels especially strange to have that level of restriction there. Like, if I can, you know, go into a dungeon and win a fancy mount, and my level 20 new alt can roll around in, you know, the crossroads with it, then why does it matter if I can go into a raid with my mage and win a piece of gear for my paladin? And, you know, and they do, and they also still have level restrictions on the gear for cosmetic purposes. So if you are not the correct level and class for a piece of gear to equip it, you can't use the appearance of it either. And, you know, like, some of those restrictions are sort of understandable, but I'm still against them. I like having as many options as I want. I love, like, WildStar's cosmetic system, where if I want my squishy light armor wearing Spellslinger to wear, you know, the set pieces from the engineering armor, I can totally do that, and it looks great. Basically, I'm saying, like, give me more freedom and more options and not silly restrictions.
Well, I mean, come on. The true end game in any of these games is looking cool in armor and weapons.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like collecting interesting things, be it either on raid gear or cosmetic gear. Like, that's like playing dress up is ultimately the end game in an MMO. And anything that restricts that just seems weird at this point.
Someone said it.
Final Fantasy XIV is the game of collecting neat hats.
It's cool. Ever sweeter hats.
And I have the best hat.
It is the only game I have ever really willingly worn hats in. Like, I always hide the hat, you know, graphic, but, like, I love my bunny samurai hat, and it's a key part of my enjoyment of that game.
I joked that the reason why I stopped playing Final Fantasy for a while was because I got my fancy scholar steampunk top hat and was like, well, I won the game. Time to take a break.
Yup.
So I guess that's the danger of, like, getting too fancy of a hat.
As somebody who really doesn't play MMOs because they just, like, I just totally bounced off of MMOs. I've tried so many times. It's very refreshing to hear the, like, actually the whole point of this is just to look cool at the end, because I've always kind of secretly thought that.
It totally is. Like, I freely admit it, like, the only reason why I ever did half the things I've done in MMOs was because there was something cool at the end of the rainbow.
Like, I'm the sort of person who I'll play an MMO for a while, like, usually through the story part, and I enjoy playing the story part, and that's fun, but, like, raiding seems pointless to me. I know I'm, like, probably just, like, speaking anathema to a lot of you guys that really like to
Not
raid
really,
regularly.
actually.
No, I get it. I mean, like, raiding is an option, and that's my frustration with so many MMOs, is, like, all paths should lead to the same end goal, and they should be equal. Like, no path should be more sacred than the other. And so many MMOs elevate raiding to this platform that it is the holiest of holies, when I think piddling around and doing daily quests should be just as rewarding as doing hardcore raid content. It may take longer to reach the end goal, but still, like, it should have an end goal.
I love games that have the sort of structure of an MMO but aren't actually multiplayer. Like, I really liked Kingdoms of Amalur. The one MMO that I really liked, they shut down, and then I didn't get to play it anymore, and that was Hellgate London.
I loved Hellgate London.
I think you and I are the only two people in existence that
I
loved
know.
Hellgate London.
But we can still play our single player version.
Yes,
It
I
still
have
works.
my collector's edition.
I had, like, so true story of my obsession with this game is basically you would go to a store and they sold you a pre-order kit, and it had, like, a code for some dyes and some other stuff, and they were like $5 to buy the pre-order kit, and then you would pay the remainder whenever you picked up the game. Well, it did not sell well here. So I went around to all the other stores and bought their pre-order kits. So I had the Walmart one and the Best Buy one and the GameStop one, so I could have all the shiny baubles from each of the store's pre-orders.
That's awesome. I love that. Man, I missed that game. Now I'm gonna, like, probably play it again, even though I have, like, 8,000 games I should play first, but I want to play Hellgate London again.
I played it, like, I don't know what, it's been about 6 months since I last obsessed with it, and I played it pretty much nonstop for a week and got it out of my system for a while, and I'm sure at some point I will fall back into it.
See, now I'm extra mad that, like, it doesn't really exist as a multiplayer anymore, because I would play that with you, and it would probably be a lot of fun.
So I played the hand-bit soft version, and it was madness, and now it's a really horrible mobile game. They turned it into a
Yeah.
mobile shooter.
Yeah, I didn't even bother. Like, when they said, like, it's not a thing anymore where, like, you know, it's being sold and all that, I'm just like, nope, well, I guess I will only play this as a single-player game, and I'm not going to try the multiplayer because I'll probably just be sad.
The big problem with the former hand-bit soft version was it was mud-flated to hell, where you were getting items that you shouldn't get for another 20 levels. So it just became silly easy to get through the content.
There's a term I haven't heard in a while.
Mudflated? Yeah. Should I, like, explain mudflation?
Yes, please. When you guys were all
Okay.
talking about MMOs, you were using, like, terms. I'm like, I don't know what the hell
Okay.
you're talking about.
So MUDs, multi-user dungeons, are text-based.
Muds. Oh.
Yeah, they're text.
okay.
Yeah, okay. So they're text-based games for the people that don't know what a MUD is. That was basically like IRC chat, and you're playing a game. Well, Mudflation was the concept of you were forever having GMs fighting with each other to create new and more powerful things. So, like, I remember one MUD, I was gone for 2 weeks, and in that 2 weeks, all of the top tier stuff that I had been eclipsed 2 or 3 times because new stuff was introduced on an almost weekly basis. So it was the constant race to the top of who could build the cooler item, and you were constantly having everything that you had worked for negated by the next person that comes in and wants to make cool items. So in an MMO, it's, you know, basically, usually it happens at expansions, where this expansion now eclipses the power scale of the previous expansion. And it feels like games have gotten more of a handle on that. Like, it's not as stark of a difference between expansions as there once was, but it's still a thing that happens from time to time.
I remember I've heard a lot of people use that term for what happened in the Division. which is unfortunate because that game hasn't had any expansions yet, and it's fairly recent.
God, speaking of The Division, yeah, like that's kind of what happened. Is they put in a bunch of gear sets that eclipse the power of what was available previously. So folks that took a break are now going back into the Dark Zone, and they're having one person take down a full squad without any issue. Like, they can't even touch the player because the gear has escalated to the point where you just can't take on somebody with the newer gear. The problem that I had is I booted it up today thinking, oh, I'll poke my head in. And whatever they did in the last patch, so as a game gets older, it tends to get more and more optimized, and it tends to perform better.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually what happens rather than the opposite. This
Frequently,
one
games will also do graphic upgrades that have unfortunate impacts on performance.
Well, maybe that's what happened with The Division, but my newish laptop was running the game previously at 45-50 frames per second at 1080p. I didn't change any of the graphical settings. I just patched it and loaded in, and I was getting low 20s, if that, running through the same areas that I was before. So I had to greatly reduce all of the settings to get it to a playable state. So that was frustrating. Also, it felt like nothing was dropping anymore. I ran several little mini missions, and I got like ammo drops and things like that, but I didn't get any usable loot. So I don't know if they nerfed those drop rates as well. Any of the in-world resource nodes that let you get various crafting resources, whereas you would get, 3 or 4 items out of a box, I was getting like 1 item out of a box. So they've already got another patch in the works that's supposed to fix all the wrongs. But yeah, it was not a happy place today, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, it's a downer.
I'm hoping maybe they can get it fixed, because I actually enjoyed roaming around in that game. But so, Kodra, you've been playing some Uncharted?
I have been playing Uncharted.
Are you playing older Uncharted, or are you playing Uncharted 4?
Oldest Uncharted right now. So I was over at Tam's house and noticed that there was an Uncharted series, all 3 Uncharteds for the PS4 now.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked that up for myself, and I've started playing through the first one, which is Drake's Fortune. And this, it looks very pretty. Still, I don't know if this is... I don't actually know how old this game is, I'm realizing.
Uncharted was... I don't know if it was a launch title for the PS3, but it was close to.
November 19th, 2007? That sounds like a launch title.
So...
I guess that's a year late.
But, I mean, it was like a first-generation-ish game for the PS3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very pretty game. It's got some serious control issues. It's got sort of some awkward pacing issues. And, one of the first characters you meet, who is, Drake's best bud, is kind of a horrible dick. And I kind of hate him immediately.
Are you talking the old man, or...?
Sully, yes.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of slowly playing my way through Uncharted, because I picked up the same bundle when it was on sale at some point.
Yeah, I really hate that guy.
Yeah, he's horrible.
And, it feels old. I don't know if it feels old, because it looks very fine. The graphics are pretty. The game design feels off. It's very linear. It's long periods of just walking down hallways, not actually doing anything.
The normal description used for the Uncharted series is cinematic.
Okay. And yep, I can see this.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of... everything speaks the language of cinematography in this game.
Uncharted was one of the first games where developers discovered cinematography.
Uh-huh.
And that just wasn't a thing before.
And didn't really understand subtlety either.
Well, I mean...
So when in a movie you shoot someone and they sort of spring forward so that oh, they got shot. Like, they're violently reacting to that. In this game, when you shoot someone like that and they die, they, like, jump 5 feet into the air.
That's a difference in medium. Because as a game, you need to give some feedback that, hey, this person is dead now.
Sure, but it's also, like, that I've seen that used in movies. It's just amped up here, and it's kind of comical. But yeah, like, there's also a lot of things where it's super context sensitive. So when your jump button is context sensitive. So if you're in an area where jumping would like get you up to a ledge or cross a chasm, like you'll do this really cool jump animation. But if you aren't in one of those zones, you'll do this sort of stupid little hop.
Yes, and it drives me nuts.
And the best part is when you are close to but not in one of those zones, you will do a stupid little hop, typically off of the edge of a cliff.
Yep.
And it's like, really, game? Like, you're gonna play me like that?
Well, that very first jumping puzzle in, like, the ruins, where you've got to climb up the hill and stuff to get into the ruins, it took me so long to get through that because I kept hitting the jumps at the wrong time and just bounding off the edge of the cliff.
I don't know if Uncharted 2 even lets you jump when you're not in an area where jumping is useful.
I bet that would make this a much better experience. That's probably something they learned. The other thing that I find really amusing right now is they have this entire system around like fighting game style combos that you can do to people. But pretty much everyone you encounter has a gun, and getting into a fist fight with a guy who has a gun goes about as well in this game as you might imagine it would in real life. I get shot a lot.
But I found the gun combat controls less than enjoyable.
Yeah, they're not great, but I've heard so much about this series, and I'm gonna keep going through it because I played Assassin's Creed 1, and I thought, wow, this is a really great game, but it's like, this is a really cool concept, but it's too bad this game's terrible. And then Assassin's Creed 2 was great. So I kind of want to see all of these games through, and this game feels more like a walking simulator than most walking simulators I've played. Right up until the part where people start shooting at you, and then it becomes kind of those are the least fun of the parts of the game.
Oh god, please don't let me die.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, for me, like, I had so much trouble aiming that I was just constantly afraid I was going to die.
Oh, that's the other thing, is this is the rare, completely uninhabited ruins that has explosive barrels everywhere. It's very cinematic.
Occupational hazard for archaeologists.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Because archaeologists use lots of TNT.
Okay, Nathan Drake is not Indiana Jones. He does not want to put this stuff in a museum. He doesn't mind if this stuff gets buried, like, completely destroyed. He has no interest in science at all. Like, it's easy to compare him to Indiana Jones, and that's kind of why I'm like, you're destroying these priceless artifacts.
It's more accurate to compare him to Lara Croft.
Well, no, like, it reminds me of, this is Indiana Jones, but instead of playing as Indiana Jones, you're playing as Belloc.
But yeah, you kind of destroy a lot of priceless ruins. It makes me sad. But it does make me kind of nostalgic for, like, the new Tomb Raider, because I played that before I played these, and clearly, like, I heard that that game took a lot from Uncharted, and I'm hoping that in number 2 and number 3 the maps open up a little bit, because right now the maps are very, very linear.
Okay.
That actually doesn't change.
No.
It's quite linear with secrets.
Yeah, okay.
That's not really what it took.
It's not, it didn't take that part of, that's not what the Tomb Raider took. The Tomb Raider took the cinematography.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Added good level design?
No, because, no, because that's not what those games are trying to do.
Also, I don't think it's accurate, really, to conflate linear with bad.
Yeah, I agree. Like, yes, Uncharted is a super linear game. I also think it's one of the best games out there. Like, I didn't necessarily like Uncharted 1, but I played it after I played Uncharted 2.
I have only played Uncharted 2.
I think my big problem with like a lot of the Uncharted I've played, because I've played bits and pieces of 1 and 2, because I have them on the PS3, and I tried playing both of them on the PS3, and ultimately I rebought this collection thinking maybe if it was all on the PS4 I would have better luck. But my problem is like a lot of it feels like I'm playing mini games, and what I mean by that is like there's a little sequence that you have to complete in between some cinematics, and the sequence doesn't necessarily feel like I'm really in the world, but instead I'm in this walled corridor that I have to do this one objective before moving on.
Yeah, I mean, the game is it's meant to be played more like a movie, not a open world, explore-y, make lots of interesting choices kind of deal.
Yeah. And there have been times that I've wondered if I would just be better off watching a Let's Play.
Quite likely.
Because I want to know the story of this game. I'm just, like, I don't know. Like, there are certain aspects I like, but there's certain aspects I don't like. And I'm wondering if I'll ever actually make it through the game. Okay, since there's a lull in the conversation here, anybody else have anything else they want to discuss before we shut things down for the night?
Nope.
Not that I can think of.
I've been playing a game involving robots, but I think we can work that into something next time.
Cool. Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed the show, and it was super awesome to have Inky once again. So thank you, Inky, for joining us, and hopefully you will make it more often.
I will do my best.
Anyway, we will see you again next week for more aimless rambling. Good night!
Good night.
Good night.
See you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Making noises.
Sounds.
Hey.
God, Grace. Remember once upon a time I said you reminded me of Bee from Bee and Puppy Cat? That was a very Bee statement.